Hey everyone, Positron here, taking a look at the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters 1 through 3. So it's going to be a little bit of a different video. This is all post-commentary. I recorded a little bit of the beginning of each of the games to kind of show off what they look like and what changes have been made. See me messing with the mini-map there. So these are the first 3 games, and overall I think it's pretty positive. Now, the graphic display between like current and classic, I was hoping that was just a flip to the actual original pixel art. It's not. It's just a CRT filter, which actually does a pretty good job. But I do wish that you could flip back to the original graphics. Maybe that was there's too many other changes for that to work out. And one other thing I would say is that you can see too that the font is a little weird, it's a little squished. There is actually a kind of a community fix for that. But overall, I think this is a really positive package. I think the art looks great. I think the new arranged soundtrack is great. Again, you can only use the new soundtrack. There's not a way to flip back to the original, which is something I wish there was. But everything I've heard of the updated soundtrack is fantastic. It's the original composer, directing, and everything. Really, really good stuff. So we get Final Fantasy 1 here. It's the original, fantastic game. Always a joy to play. And we got our first boss here. The boss theme arrangement is like really, really good. Good old Garland. Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's just really the arrangement music is fantastic. Almost too epic for the pixel art, but it's really good. And we get new spell effects and things like that. Now some of this is based off of what seems to be like the GBA versions where there were cases of that. So there's actually some additional scenes added. And some of those scenes were originated in the GBA versions. For example, in Final Fantasy 1, you have like the bridge building scene. That wasn't in the original. This also goes back to a charge system for magic. The charge system is used in 1 and 3. I'm trying to think now if it's used in 2. But instead of MP, I know in the GBA versions they went to an MP system, but this goes back to the original charge system. Yeah, so here's that bridge scene. So yeah, so scenes like this are included in the remaster, which is cool. I think those added a lot. Be curious to see how that works out for 4, 5, and 6, because they had some of that stuff too. But yeah, you get kind of an updated version of those extra little scenes, which is nice. That's a nice touch. Now, the art of the first 3 is actually pretty uniform, which is interesting to me, because I'll be really curious to see what happens with 4, 5, and 6, because 4, 5, and 6, the art of those was, I would say, significantly different. The art of 6 in particular is very different from the others. So we get that classic cutscene, the nice new background, a nice new arrangement of the Final Fantasy theme. So this is the game I probably have the most nostalgia for, and from what I've played so far, I played a few hours. I think they've done a very good job with it. overall, UI, systems, everything feels pretty good. And my common thing here will be just, I wish there was a little bit more. I wish there was a little more of the ability to switch back to the original stuff. But, you know, in the absence of that, I think they've done a fantastic job with everything that's here. Now, the first 2 games are $12. The third one is 18. I believe the final 3 will also be 18 each, or in a bundle. This is on Steam. It's also on mobile. Square was kind enough to give me codes for the first 3, which is awesome. So as you go into 2, you see a lot more of a cinematic approach overall, and this was true in the original as well. So this is the intro cutscene, kind of showing off a little bit of the setup of Final Fantasy II. And the thing I think it's really interesting is you can see here that the graphical style is pretty uniform to the first game. You know, in the originals, it was a pretty significant difference between 1 and 2, but here it's kind of uniform. I would say this one is still a little more elaborate. Now, contrary to the first game, Final Fantasy II has 4 set characters. They all have their own backstories and everything. And they're all very unique characters. Now, the way that leveling up and such works in Final Fantasy II is a little different. Instead of straight levels, you get stat ups. Stat ups are based on, you know, what you do in combat. So if I recall, you can actually build characters in multiple ways, but it's all based on, you know, how you equip them, what they use. You're seeing here some of the new the particle effects and stuff that they've put in here, which are really nice. Again, it all looks really, really good. Soundtrack is always fantastic. Now, I believe you can rename the characters. Also, something that I neglected to mention is that there's a kind of a strange thing, and I'll bring it up in a second here, but so the shop UIs and things like that, they're all uniform. I believe the equip screens are all uniform. They all have the optimization button, which I'm always a big fan of, because sometimes you just have so much gear, you just want to know what's the best, right? Or at least what the game thinks is the best. But for the first 3 games, all the shop UIs are identical. Buy, sell, equip, you can do that in any shop. It definitely helps if you're going to like marathon these games, you know, to have the same interface and things like that. So I think that's a really nice touch. I think it's a really important touch. But you'll notice I'm able to move diagonally, which was not something you could do in the first 3 games. Now, it's interesting because you can't move diagonally to like avoid going around a corner, I guess I would say. You still have to specifically go around the corner. So as far as I know, there's nothing you can do that is exploitative with the diagonal movement. But I guess that saves you a little bit of time. It's a little more convenient. Makes more sense if you're playing with an analog stick. So I think it's a smart touch. So you're seeing here the kind of like the skill level ups, which I think is a cool system. They didn't end up using that again in 3, but I thought it was a really neat system for 2. And a little more of the combat here for 2. And the menus for the combat too are also pretty uniform. Obviously there are cases where, you know, magic or not magic. and where it's applicable to, have a front and back row. Now, they have done some rebalancing too. I don't know too much of what the rebalancing entails. So for 3, now Final Fantasy 3 only had these 4 characters. Now they do have canonical names as of the DS version. So you see me using those names here. Although I'm not totally sure if I got the colors correct. And it's a little weird too, because the characters will never have name tags in 3. I guess that's because they're technically they're unique characters, but as of the original game, they don't necessarily have specifics attached to them. So whenever they talk in a group, there aren't any name tags associated. So I guess you're kind of meant to decide who is saying what at any given time, which is it's interesting little bit there. So again, with 3, they have that very cinematic style. Four souls blessed with the power of light. Four orphaned youths. That's kind of the old trope, right? Like, no RPG character ever has parents. And that was certainly apparent in the Final Fantasy series early on. Yeah, I don't remember the age of the characters in Final Fantasy, but they're young. They're basically kids. And that nice mist effect over the top. I'll be really interested to see how that works out for stuff like Final Fantasy IV, right? Like, that's a really big thing in the intro. Something else that, of course, is included is that you can't whiff a monster. I believe that was something in the original Final Fantasy. It's been a long time since I played the original in the first game. But if a monster you're attacking dies, a character will reselect a new target. They won't just attack, nothing essentially. So we get a malicious force here right at the start. You get your first boss fight, basically right at the beginning of the game. And they do give you some items in Final Fantasy III right at the start. Now, so you see in the upper left, there's that fast forward button. There is also an auto battle feature across all 3 games, and that is, again, uniform. The auto battle, I believe, the way it works is it just picks your last used abilities. I did read somewhere someone was saying that it would pick abilities for you. I haven't seen it do that. So I think it goes with whatever you were using most recently. Now, the big change with Final Fantasy III, the original 3, not 6, we'll get to that eventually. But the big thing here with the interaction with the crystal is that there is a class change system in 3. So you get to pick your classes. If you've played You know, like Final Fantasy V, I think, was the next one that does that. Might be a little more well known. But this, I believe, was the origination of the job system, which is kind of carried through the series forever at this point. Yes, right at the start, you get Warrior, Monk, White Mage, Black Mage, Red Mage. Basically the same classes you could start Final Fantasy 1 with. But you can pick them, you can swap them. And whenever you do change, they all get unique sprites. Now, I don't believe the sprites are the same as the Final Fantasy 1 sprites, but they are very similar. I feel like I always tend towards the same party setup of Fighter, Monk, White Mage, Red Mage. I don't know why. Red Mage is always kind of a weird one. It's never amazing, but I like the flexibility. So something else that these games, if you're not familiar, is that you can pretty much wander off into extremely difficult situations very early on. There are no guardrails in these games. So I just got a good example here as we get towards the end of the video of me running into a place that is super dangerous. Utilize the whole curing an undead to kind of save me there, but yeah, again, overall, I think these packages are great. I think these are fantastic updates. I do wish there were more features. I will show off the bestiary and the gallery briefly before we wrap up here. The bestiary is cool too because it does show you where the enemies appear to. I think that's a really nice touch. Really handy in case you actually do want to hunt down a particular enemy. And the gallery is great. The art is all fantastic. It's cool to see some of the art that they didn't end up using. And these are in all three games, of course. And there's a music player. So if you ever just want to listen to the soundtrack, you can't access that in-game. It has to be at the title screen. But yeah, so again, thanks Square for giving me these codes. Check it out. Overall, I think it's very positive. Be interested to see if they ever, update or add some things. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click like, helps a bunch. Subscribe for more. See you soon.